Welcome to a dark and epic journey through time. Today, we reveal the hidden, ancient secrets of the Knights Templar. Friday the 13th, 1307. A devastating purge strikes France. Elite warriors meet a tragic end in flames. How did 9 starving monks become Europe's wealthiest bankers, only to face such a devastating, tragic downfall? To understand this betrayal, we must travel to the scorching sands of Jerusalem, where the legend began. Let us uncover the epic rise of the Knights Templar. Witness the devastating cost of absolute, unchecked greed. In the year 1119, the First Crusade ended. A fragile Christian victory claimed the sacred Holy Land. Jerusalem was secured. This grand triumph drew thousands of devout pilgrims from across the European continent. However, the scorching roads leading to the sacred sites remained incredibly dangerous and completely unguarded. Ruthless bandits roamed the vast desert, decimating innocent travelers and stealing their possessions without mercy. The journey of faith quickly transformed into a tragic nightmare for thousands of defenseless European Christians. Witnessing this devastating tragedy, a French knight named Hugues de Péan decided to take immediate action. He gathered 8 of his most trusted, battle-hardened relatives to form a highly secretive, holy brotherhood. They approached King Baldwin of Jerusalem, offering their swords to protect the vulnerable traveling pilgrims. The king granted them a modest headquarters, located directly upon the ancient ruins of Solomon's temple. Thus, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon were officially born into history. Historical records state they were so impoverished that 2 knights were forced to ride a single powerful horse. This powerful image of absolute poverty and humble brotherhood became the enduring emblem of their order. Their solemn oath was incredibly harsh. They swore to maintain absolute poverty, strict chastity, and obedience. These brave men lived as humble monks, but fought like fierce lions on the unforgiving, perilous desert battlefields. For nearly a decade, these 9 original knights patrolled the dangerous pilgrimage routes completely alone. Their remarkable bravery against overwhelming odds quickly gained them immense fame throughout the mighty Christian kingdoms. How could only 9 impoverished warriors continue to defend a kingdom without any financial support? Would you sacrifice everything for a divine, unrewarded mission? Share your honest thoughts in the comments below. Their fortunes changed drastically when they gained the mighty support of Bernard of Clairvaux, a prominent churchman. He passionately lobbied the Pope, writing brilliant treatises praising the Templars as ultimate holy warriors. At the Council of Troyes in 1129, the Templar order was endorsed by the mighty Catholic Church. This papal blessing opened the floodgates. Noblemen across Europe began donating vast estates and war horses. Younger sons of aristocratic families rushed to join the hallowed ranks, seeking eternal glory and salvation. They discarded their luxurious silk garments for the simple, heavy white mantle adorned with a striking red cross. The red cross symbolized their unwavering willingness to sacrifice everything in defense of their holy faith. A Templar was strictly forbidden to surrender in battle, unless the odds against him were mightier than 3 to 1. This fanatical discipline made them the most feared and elite mighty shock troops in the entire medieval world. They spearheaded heavy cavalry charges, shattering enemy lines with devastating, mighty physical force. To fall in heroic combat against the infidel was a guaranteed, glorious pathway straight into heaven. Despite their massive military success, they maintained their humble lifestyle within heavily fortified castles. But as their physical power grew, a much more subtle and dangerous kind of influence was being born. In 1139, Pope Innocent II issued a papal bull that changed world history forever. This grand decree exempted the Knights Templar from paying taxes, tithes, or obeying any secular local laws. They were granted absolute immunity. They answered to no earthly king, no bishop, but only to the Pope himself. According to ancient chronicles, this vast power transformed them into an untouchable, sovereign entity across borders. With thousands of new recruits and massive donations, they suddenly faced a completely new, logistical nightmare. How could a pilgrim safely transport their life savings across the bandit-infested, dangerous roads of Europe and Asia? The Templars invented a revolutionary solution. They created the world's first multinational banking system. A nobleman could deposit his heavy gold coins at a highly secure Templar fortress in mighty London or Paris. In return, he received a small encrypted piece of parchment, written in a complex, secret Templar cipher. He then traveled safely empty-handed, presenting the secret document at a Templar base in the Holy Land. The treasurer would decode the mysterious note and hand over the exact value in local currency. This ingenious invention of the modern cheque made large-scale theft during long pilgrimages practically impossible. For this reliable, epic service, the Templars charged a small administrative fee, vastly increasing their wealth. Soon, not just pilgrims, but wealthy merchants, bishops, and even powerful mighty kings began using the famous Templar banks. They managed vast estates, owned massive commercial fleets, and controlled the most profitable trade routes of the entire era. From humble beginnings, they uniquely built the most powerful financial empire the medieval world had ever seen. Their fortified treasuries in Paris and London became the primary secure vaults for the sacred royal crown jewels. Have you ever wondered what truly happens when a mighty bank outgrows a kingdom? Let us know what you think below. This immense wealth soon became their darkest curse. They had forgotten their original vow of absolute, humble poverty. While single knights owned nothing, the order itself possessed unimaginable riches and untouchable power. They built spectacular, soaring stone castles and maintained highly disciplined private armies across several continents. However, the tides of war in the Middle East were slowly turning against the fractured, mighty Christian Crusader states. In 1291, the great coastal stronghold of Acre fell to the massive, overwhelming Mamluk army. The Templars fought valiantly to the bitter end, taking devastating losses. But the Holy Land was completely lost. Without a sacred city to protect, the surviving warriors were forced to retreat to the European mainland. Suddenly, Europe was filled with thousands of highly trained, heavily armed soldiers who had no clear military purpose. They were an elite, international standing army, immune to local laws, roaming freely in sovereign borders. This terrifying reality sent shivers down the spines of monarchs, especially King Philip IV of mighty France. King Philip, known as the Fair, was a ruthlessly ambitious ruler, trying to centralize his epic royal power. He had fought expensive, devastating wars against England and Flanders, completely bankrupting the mighty French treasury. Desperate for cash, he heavily taxed the clergy, expelled the Jews, and ruthlessly debased the national currency. Yet his largest, most terrifying massive debt was owed directly to the wealthy Knights Templar, residing right in Paris. The Grand Templar fortress in Paris stood taller and far more imposing than the mighty king's own epic royal palace. Philip owed them a staggering fortune. He knew perfectly well that a mighty king cannot truly rule while buried in debt. He needed their gold, but more importantly, he needed to eliminate their untouchable, threatening presence. The French king began gathering vicious, unfounded rumors spread by disgraced former secret Templar members. They whispered dark tales of secret rituals and dark blasphemy and horrifying acts committed behind closed castle doors. Philip saw a golden opportunity. If he could brand them as vile heretics, he could legally seize all their wealth. However, the Templars answered only to the Pope. Philip needed the church's authority to execute his master plan. Through ruthless pressure and manipulation, Philip secured the election of a weak, easily controlled French pope. Pope Clement V was effectively a puppet, relocating the papacy to France under the king's watchful eye. Meanwhile, the epic Grand Master of the Templars, Jacques de Molay, traveled to Paris, completely unaware of the dark trap. He came to discuss launching a mighty new crusade, bringing a massive entourage and chests overflowing with silver coins. The stage was perfectly set. The mighty trap was sprung. The darkest chapter in medieval history was ready to begin. King Philip secretly drafted dark arrest warrants for every single mighty Templar across the land of France. Sealed royal orders were quietly dispatched to local commanders, strictly forbidding any early opening. Commanders waited for the exact mighty date to execute the largest mass arrest in European history. At dawn, on Friday, October the 13th, 1307, the devastating and unforgiving royal trap was sprung. Armed royal guards suddenly stormed the grand Parisian temple, completely surprising the peaceful, slumbering epic knights. Grand Master Jacques de Molay and his mighty officers were ruthlessly dragged from their warm and comfortable beds. Across France, thousands of proud, epic, holy warriors were ruthlessly thrown into dark and freezing, mighty dungeons. Forbidden to fight fellow Christians, most epic knights surrendered peacefully without causing any further tragic harm. Philip quickly seized their mighty vaults, hoping to find massive piles of gold to erase his shattering royal debts. Historical records state the fabled Templar treasure fleet had mysteriously vanished from the secret ancient port. Furious, the king unleashed the mighty Inquisition to extract false confessions from his epic new prisoners. The prisoners faced unimaginable dark torment. The torment brought unspeakable, tragic physical suffering. God subjected them to fiery, unspeakable pain, driving many brave, hardened veterans to total madness. Under such extreme and unspeakable dark torment, the strongest men will eventually confess to anything. They were forced to admit to spitting on the Holy Cross and denying Christ during their secret, ancient rituals. The bizarre accusation claimed they worshipped a dark, terrifying demonic idol, infamously known as Baphomet. Modern historians agree these dark charges were completely fabricated to justify the royal purge. Broken by endless days of unspeakable suffering, Grand Master de Molay finally signed a false confession. Pope Clement initially hesitated to condemn his warriors, clearly sensing the mighty king's greedy motives. Threatened by unstoppable military force, the pontiff caved, ordering the arrest of all the mighty Templars. This disastrous decree sealed their epic, tragic fate. The glorious, untouchable brotherhood was now outlawed. Knights who dared to retract their unjust, forced confessions were quickly sentenced to face the ultimate, fiery judgment. In 1310, 54 epic, mighty Templars met a tragic end in flames in a field outside the walls of Paris. They desperately maintained their pious innocence as the scorching flames sealed their devastating earthly doom. Their vast properties were transferred to a mighty rival military order, widely known as the Hospitallers. King Philip cleverly managed to steal a large portion of the epic wealth to cover his own massive expenses. For 7 agonizing years, the mighty Grand Master languished in a damp, devastating, freezing, lightless dungeon. In 1314, he was dragged to a grand public stage to confess his apparent unforgivable, dark sins. Facing his imminent death, the broken, tragic warrior suddenly found a massive surge of mighty, fiery courage. He loudly declared the order was pure and innocent, and that his confession was extracted by dark torment. Enraged by this public, shattering humiliation, the king ordered Molay to face the ultimate judgment. They dragged him to a small island, tying his frail, battered body to a tall wooden stake to face his final destiny. As the roaring, mighty flames climbed higher, the dying Grand Master supposedly shouted a dark and unforgiving curse. He summoned the Pope and King Philip to meet him before the mighty tribunal of God within a single year. Incredibly, this dark prophecy came true. The Pope died of sickness 1 month after the execution. Later that very same year, the mighty, healthy King Philip suffered a massive, fatal stroke while out royal hunting. The sudden deaths of both persecutors cemented the legend of the Templars' mighty, divine vengeance. With leaders dead and wealth stolen, the ancient mighty order was completely wiped from the sacred face of the earth. Modern historians still debate the true magnitude of the mysterious, missing, epic Templar treasury. Did a secret group of surviving knights escape to Scotland, carrying epic, ancient, and dark forbidden knowledge? Their innovative banking laid the crucial, mighty foundation for the modern, epic, global financial system. They proved centralized economic power can become far more dangerous than any elite standing army. The Purge of 1307 is a devastating lesson about the fatal mix of royal greed and deep fear. When an armed corporation operates beyond state control, ultimate, mighty tragedy becomes inevitable. The Templar story is not just about epic crusades. It is about the dark nature of absolute power. Their spectacular, epic rise and terrifying fall continue to inspire countless books and epic movies. They were proud, mighty warriors, visionary bankers, and ultimately, tragic victims of a cruel monarch. The Templars vanished, leaving a legacy of glory and gold. Their legendary mighty wealth was never found. Was the king protecting France from a threat, or just a greedy tyrant? Leave your honest thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this epic journey, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more historical stories.